Hey guys, and welcome to another one of my videos. Today I'm going to be doing a slight tutorial on Live2d. This is how I created Luna, and so this recording is for eyes and eyebrows. So alright, let's get started. Okay, first I work on eye open, and basically when you first start doing anything you have to add your meshes, and what I learned in this whole thing is meshes really make or break this, because it can make your eyes look wonky, it can mess with the art. So doing a good mesh is what is important, and I feel like I really learned that. So in this part I am just making meshes and warp deformers. So a warp deformer is basically helps you warp the area, and you can combine multiple layers into one deformer. Rotation deformers is for rotation. So here we're mostly focused on warp deformers and not so much the rotation deformers, and that is because we're trying to warp the area. Once you've completed your warp deformers, you want to set your perimeters. Basically, an eye open, you want to have it close and open, close and open. Once you've created the warp deformer, you want to create what's called a path deformer. And the path deformer helps warp the eyelash into a position that you want. And basically that path deformer, you see the little dots there, you want to create a path and then push, and basically pushing and pulling those pathways will then warp the actual artwork itself. Pretty neat stuff, honestly. So here I'm basically forming the eye to open and close the way that I want it to open and close. But I'm sorry if it looks like I'm going through things super fast in the video, but I will try to explain things verbally as well as the video will show it to you. So I'm not entirely sure why this happens, but basically when I'm creating warp deformers, it makes them super huge for the whole picture. And I think that's because I do Procreate for this. And I'm wondering if the background for Procreate affects this. So I have to go in and basically make my deformers smaller, and that's what you'll see if you see the whole picture. I'm having to squeeze it all, see like how it's huge. I have to fix that warp deformer because that's not gonna work. It's way too big and I only need this smaller space. So I create the mesh first, and then once I create the mesh I then add a deformer. So it's pretty easy to fix. You don't want to leave it huge because obviously it makes it harder. So you want the smaller warp deformer, and that just makes it so much easier. So when you're doing these eye open and eye closings, you're basically just going to make the eye open and eye close the way you like it. This is the way I did it for Luna. So once I complete the eye open, I then go to eye smile. And I'm still working on the same eye. I don't go into the other eye quite yet, and I'll explain why in the future. When you're doing eye smile, you want to do eye smile for an open eye, and then you also want to do eye smile for a closed eye because they will both be different. Again, you can do this and make your character all quirky and stuff. This is just the way I did it for Luna. But eye smile should be both different for eye open and eye closed. Next, I went into eyeball XY, and you can see how I set the perimeter from left to right. And then I will be doing eyeball Y, which will be up and down next. These are pretty self-explanatory, just making sure the eye looks good from left to right. Another thing I wanted to mention with eye open and eye close, some artists like to, when they do eye open, eye close, they want to do like a shock look. And so sometimes they'll make the eyes smaller. I didn't do that for Luna. There's other ways to go about it because it can make the eye whites bigger, and you can make them look kind of more shocked and have more of an effect on the character. I'm still learning Live2d, so I'm picking and choosing the complexity of the character and how I animate the character. So that is partially why I do it this way. Also, I typically clip the eyeball to the eye white. That way it doesn't go through the eyelashes and it looks dumb. So once you complete eyeball X and Y, you want to link them because you want to basically make sure that they look good when it's going up and down. And then you want to synthesize corners. You can synthesize corners. Actually, I'm not sure I did that for this one. I think I did it manually myself just to make sure it looked good. Eyeball X and Y, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but you want to make sure you can have the eye go around. So then next you want to do the eye physics. So you're going to create 2 new parameters for eye physics 1 and eye physics 2. You can name them whatever you want. That's what I do. And so here you're going to kind of play with how you want the physics to look, and I typically warp them like so. So I warp my eye physics 1 and eye physics 2. Then I combine the physics together. Then you're going to go into physics, you're going to add a group, and I call it eye physics. And then you want to basically put the inputs and the outputs. The inputs being eye open because you want the effect to happen because of eye open. And then you want to create a pendulum, which I just play with these, by the way. Then your output is going to be eye physics 1 and eye physics 2. And then you want to increase the output. So then you play with it, eye open, eye close, see how it looks at first, and then you're just going to basically play with the numbers here. I mean, you can play with the output, you can play with the reaction time, etc., etc. So when I'm trying to create an eye effect, I basically just play around with it until I'm happy with it, and then there's your eye physics. So every time your eye opens and your eye closes, it makes this jiggle effect. And if that's what you're looking for with the eyes, which a lot of people love that. So this is sped up and it looks funky because it's sped up. Here we go. This is less sped up, but basically I'm trying to create the effect I want. And if I don't like an effect, I'll end up deleting it and fixing it later. But basically, you just want to spend time trying to figure out what the eye looks like in the physics and then basically make it to the way that you like it. To me, the physics are the creative aspect of Live2d. That is what makes Live2d really awesome, is the physics aspect. And doing physics for eyes, hair, all of it is just a lot of fun. But when you're creating physics, it can also glitch it out. So it can be the most headache of things. It can also be one of the most fun of things. So the next thing you do, you delete the other eye completely. At least this is what I do. There's other ways to go about this. I delete it, and then I'm going to copy. Basically, you want to copy everything, including all warp deformers. You want to copy everything that you did on the deformer side, and then you're going to paste it. Once you paste it, then you're going to reflect it. So you reflect it onto the other side, move it onto the other side, make it look even. And basically after that, you want to make sure that it works correctly. So you're going to do a few tests, you're going to make sure it works. And then I go in, I'm like, oh, okay, it didn't reflect all the way. Look, it made my eyes look googly. So I got to actually go back and reflect the eye itself again, which is fine. It works. It's fine. Sometimes these mistakes happen, so I would just reflect the eyeball back, and then I still do some corrections here and there because it still might look funky even though it's the same eye. I like to go back and basically correct the right eye that I didn't really mess with. The left eye looks good, but I didn't like the right eye. And at this point, I'm just playing to make the eyes look better. Just basically working to fix it. So in essence, this is pretty much eyes. Basically, all you need to do is you create your meshes, you create your warp deformers. You then have to add your perimeters. You do eye open, eye smile, and then you want to do your eye physics. Lastly, I'm going to show you eyebrows. And basically, I only use 2 different kinds of eyebrows. I only do the brow Y and brow X. So again, I have to create my meshes, and then I create my pathway deformers. I also wanted to note, the only time you use pathway deformers is when it's for a pathway thing, like eyebrows, eye closing, mouth open, those types of things. You're not going to use pathway deformers, for instance, for like a face. Like if you're trying to do face XY, you're not going to use those path deformers. You only want to use brow Y and brow form, by the way, for this. You don't need to use the other ones. I don't know if VTube Studio recognizes all these perimeters, so I only do the perimeters that I know work, and I know brow Y and brow form are what works, and so I don't deal with brow X. I don't know why I did brow X, so I ended up, I think, renaming it to brow form, because I don't use the brow X. It's supposed to be brow form. Yeah, I did rename it because it's not supposed to be brow X. It doesn't matter. It's just there's only 2 forms you need to even worry about. This, in essence, is what makes your character have expression. And the more expressions you give, the more your character can do in expressiveness. So brow forms, the eyes, doing like little mouth things and cheek things, it's all going to create more expressiveness. And you can get as detailed or as not detailed as you want in these expressiveness. Now, again, the more details you add, the more it can do, but also the more it can glitch out, which is unfortunate with Live2d. Sometimes things can get glitchy, and there's all sorts of memes and stuff you can see on that because it's kind of crazy, and it's probably the most headache and frustrating thing you can deal with. So basically, brow Y is your up and down brows, and your brow form is the little crinkles and the bringing up of the tip of the eyebrow. So then once you're done with the eyebrow Y and the eyebrow form, you want to combine the two, make sure that they look all right. And then you're going to spend probably a little bit more time fixing, at least that's what I do. A lot of Live2d is you do something and then you probably are going to go back and fix it, look better, look better, look better. Hey, it looks great, I love it. And then you just go to the next thing. I know this was a very short and sped up tutorial, but I hope that you guys learned something from this, and I hope that this tutorial will help you be a better Live2d artist. So I want to note something, because there were mistakes that I made when I first started Live2d. You do want to create a warp deformer for the eyes, and you want to basically use your perimeters directly from the warp deformer and not the artwork itself. And the reason I say this is because when I made this mistake, I had messed up my first model by doing basically straight from the artwork, and I didn't use the warp deformers. I do warp deformers on everything. I highly recommend it, otherwise it'll look wonky, it'll look messed up, and they're very, very good. Very, very good to use. They're your bread and butter. In my experience, you need enough warp deformers to be able to create the physics and also be able to move your eyeballs around and do everything, because if you add too many perimeters to the one deformer, it basically overloads the computer. It's not great. I've done it, and I've even done it with this model, but try to stick to 3 perimeters because it can mess up and glitch out your character. So I highly recommend that you make enough deformers for your character, basically actions and movements, aka your perimeters. So attaching a deformers to your perimeters is basically your bread and butter of creating a awesome Live2d character. I wanted to note a couple other things, and I wanted to say that, like, one, when I first start Live2d, I usually start with the eyes and then go into X, Y, and up and down, basically up and down, side to side, X, Y. I do that next after the eyes, and that's just because it's easier for me to start that next versus doing the XY first and then the eyes, because once you have the eyes complete, you can kind of check with your XYs to see if the eyes are not glitching out when you do your XY and your head movement. So that's what I typically do. Now, what I do, I'm going to be honest, is not perfect. In fact, I notice mistakes even on this character, and I apologize if y'all do too. I am still learning, and I'm still like understanding that there are still certain mistakes on my character that I still need to fix and adjust, but that is part of the learning process. Once I feel like I can get this down, it'll get easier and easier, and then I just am getting faster and faster. So don't let these mistakes discourage you. They will get better. And also, if something messes up, don't get frustrated. I've had to basically figure out things that have messed up for me multiple times. I would suggest if something is messed up, well, you can message me and ask me questions and I may be able to answer them. I'm on X. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. If you have any questions, just shoot me a message and I'm more than happy to help. But also, if you need help that I can't answer, I highly recommend that you join the Live2d Discord. I've had to do it a couple times. I've had to go and ask for help, and everyone has been helpful. And sometimes I will figure it out myself, but there are times that having that little extra help, it really, really does help. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this and other silly videos that I make as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope it was informative for you. And guys, don't quit creating.